me get this straight. You can be an illegal immigrant, lie about having a PhD, fake awards, sell drugs, and somehow register to vote as a Democrat and still end up running an entire public school system. Can somebody please make it make sense? Make it make sense, America. Y'all, we paid this man $300,000 a year, all built on a lie, while politicians tell us that illegal immigration is compassionate and DEI is progress. This is what happens when political theater replaces moral clarity. Y'all, this is not compassion. We're looking at corruption with a smile, right? So let's talk about this character, Ian Roberts. He is the former superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, a man whose resume was as fake as his citizenship. And how all of this scandal exposes everything that's wrong with our education system, our immigration policies, and our incessant obsession with DEI. Y'all, we got to talk about it, so let's get into it. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. We have got to expose the fraud that exposed the entire system. So first, let's just start with the basics. Ian Roberts, he was the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, and this guy was raking in almost $300,000, maybe more once you add in all the benefits of taxpayer money per year. Well, he has now been arrested by ICE. Y'all, there's so many twists and turns to this story. You need to pull up a chair because it's going to be hard to keep up. But basically, he was arrested by ICE after it was discovered that he has been living in these here United States illegally for decades. Now, this character claimed to have had a PhD from Oregon State University, but he didn't. He also claimed that he had an MBA from MIT Sloan. And he didn't. Okay. He bragged about having been awarded all kinds of awards from a university that don't list him anywhere. Like, that's a lie too. So he was basically the George Santos of public education, except worse. Okay. Because your kids' future, y'all, your kids' future was his playground. But here's the kicker. The kicker in this whole story is that the school board knew of some of this. They were told that his PhD was unverified, but, DEI, they hired him anyway because equity, inclusion, and representation matter more than truth, qualification, integrity, and merit. So, for my conclusion, this wasn't just an oversight. This was willful blindness. Like, we don't see nothing. We don't know anything. And it was all wrapped in the latest buzzwords. So when you make identity, this is what happens. When you make identity more important than integrity, you end up hiring frauds to teach your kids about values. This was wild. So there are some crimes that were unearthed in this whole saga of a story. So here's what else. Here's what else that they missed. We have to talk about the fake degrees. So this is a story about a man with a criminal history that was so thick that you could teach a whole course on it. So according to ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, Ian Roberts was arrested all the way back in 1996 in New York. Y'all, I was in high school, okay? He was arrested in 96 for criminal possession of narcotics with intent to sell. He was also charged with possession of narcotics and possession of a forged instrument. Translation, y'all, he was slinging dope, dealing drugs, and faking documents nearly 30 years ago. And I get it. Y'all like, oh, hey, well, people change. You can't always hold a person's past against them. Fine. I will grant you that argument. People change their lives around all the time and then give back in a spirit of service to teach the younger people to not go and do likewise. But somehow this same man was also later trusted to oversee schools. responsible for shaping young minds and signing off on teacher conduct. But somehow nobody caught it. And the reason why I am saying no one caught it is because when you're blinded by all of this diversity, those red flags start to look like decorations. But here is where it gets really rich. This is the left's idea of what they're calling restorative justice. So apparently, the only thing in this story that was being restored is their tolerance for nonsense and tomfoolery. You can't make half of the things in this story up. You couldn't make it up if you tried. The man had more red flags than a CCP parade, okay? But the system that supposedly preaches accountability, y'all, they just waved him and pushed him right on through. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, y'all, this man was also registered to vote. Yes. According to the Associated Press, Ian Roberts is registered to vote in Maryland as a Democrat, of course. Of course, that had to be his party of choice. But this is the same man who's been living in the country illegally for decades. He somehow got himself on the voter rolls. Now, to be fair, the Maryland Board of Elections, they said that his registration may have been unintentional and that they found no voting history. Now, he probably did that because that probably would have triggered something on the immigration side. So thank goodness he was smart enough not to vote. But seriously, how does an illegal immigrant get registered at all? How does that happen? These are questions that need to be answered. My question is, what happened to all of those strict verification systems that the left swore that we have in place? Did nobody ask the most basic question, are you a citizen? Right? Nobody asked that? Is that what y'all want us to believe? Now, of course, like I said, he's registered as a Democrat. Of course he is. Because when you build your entire life on lies and government dependency, the Democratic Party is basically the home team. They welcome you right on in. They don't care. This is their system. This is their system that swears that voter fraud is a myth. Yet somehow, an illegal immigrant with fake degrees and a criminal record just slips right on in. Y'all, if that is not proof of systematic failure, I don't know what is. They always talk about systematic racism, but this to me is a systematic failure of the worst kind. But now, I need to build, or should I say connect some dots here. Because to be fair, because y'all know, I do my best. I'm biased. Yes, I'm a conservative, but I do want to be fair. We need to make one thing clear. It was actually, this shocked me, so I'm going to report it. It was actually the Biden administration that issued the final deportation order for Dr. Roberts. So let me just translate that for you. Basically, you've got to be like really bad, like super, super bad for the Biden administration to say, okay, bro, you got to go. When even they can't cover for you, that's not a red flag. That is a 5-alarm fire. It was the Biden administration that issued the deportation order. So everybody want to lay the blame at Trump. He picking on the black man. The black man was just coming to America to get a better life. It was the Biden administration that issued the order. But yet, this is the problem. The Des Moines School Board still found this man fit to run their district. This is what happens when the political loyalty means more than following the rule of law. When moral relativism becomes government policy, this is what you get. Y'all take a look at this news clip.
Today, be sending a letter to the Des Moines School Board authorized by Dr. Roberts to resign his position as the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools.
Us here in Des Moines.
Breaking news at 4, as you just heard, Dr. Ian Roberts is submitting his resignation as superintendent for Des Moines schools. It comes just days after he was detained by ICE.
And before that announcement, students at Des Moines Public Schools walking out of school in support for Roberts. KCCI has been working hard to learn more about the detainment of Dr. Ian Roberts.
That arrest happened last Friday. We have live team coverage for you right now from the news we just heard hours ago from Dr. Roberts' attorney to reactions from students and families within Des Moines schools.
And we start this afternoon with KCCI's Pepper Papura with the very latest information that we just received from the U.S. Department of Justice. Pepper, it's now investigating the Des Moines Public Schools for, quote, race-based employment practices.
That's correct, Jody, but we do not know if this investigation is related to Roberts' arrest. The Justice Department sent a letter to the school district telling them about the investigation. It says the department is looking into hiring practices across DMPS. The investigation was sparked by information that the district's employment practices, quote, discriminate against employees, job applicants, and training program participants based on race, color, and national origin in violation of Title VII. A news release on the investigation says DMPS has an affirmative action plan that includes quotas. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon called for the district to cease any such practices and, quote, restore merit-based employment practices. A spokesperson with Des Moines Public Schools says the Justice Department informed the district this afternoon about that investigation. They are reviewing the letter. We've reached out to Iowa's lawmakers over the area that DMPS serves, and we'll have some of their reactions coming up later this evening. Ben?
Okay, we'll look forward to that report in a little while, Pepper. Thank you.
So I wanted you guys to see that so you could just see the verified record of all of this wrongshiftiness and the twists and the turns that took place with this case. But now, I want to deal with the elephant in the room, or should I say the acronym in the room, which is DEI, didn't earn it, or affectionately known to the populace as diversity, equity, and inclusion. Make no mistake, y'all, DEI had its fingerprints all over this foolishness. Ian Roberts was the first Black superintendent of Des Moines, Iowa. That was the story. That was the shareable narrative and the symbolism that made everybody so proud. That was the selling point. And because that was the selling point, that's exactly why nobody wanted to look too closely, because, you know, they didn't want to ruin a historic moment. I told you the left is all about symbolism. They lack substance down to the core of who they are. They didn't want to be labeled racist or anti-diversity, so they ignored the truth, ignored the fact that this man was an abject liar and a fraud, all so that he can fill their quota to say we're do-gooders because we have the first Black superintendent. Y'all, when you make race the resume, you make fraud the fruit, okay? They said that, you know, they wanted representation. Well, this is some kind of representation because what they got was a rap sheet. Then they said, well, you know, equity is so important and it's so, you know, very much a part of the fabric of who we are. But what they got was embezzled integrity. Then they said, we want inclusion. We want to make sure that we have representation and everyone is included because this school system is one of diversity and all of us are important and matter. Yeah, well, with that, they included a criminal, an illegal, and a liar. That's some inclusion for you. I'm just saying. This is the poisonous fruit of DEI. You get discrimination in order to correct supposed discrimination. None of this is justice. It's just reverse corruption. I don't understand why people can't see this. And I don't understand why Black people are not insulted, that they would rather have an illegal, criminal, liar than to say Des Moines and its students matter. Why can't we just vet the best person for the job, irrespective of what they look like? We've replaced meritocracy, y'all, with melanintocracy, right? It's all about the count of melanin that you hold. I wonder if he's a sodomite, because if he's melanated like he is and gay, oh, they were checking two intersectionality boxes all at the same time. We are literally watching institutions crumble under melanintocracy. It's got to come to an end, because at this point, diversity has become a god. It is such an idol of the left that truth becomes a casualty, and we can no longer allow this. You guys, illegal immigration and this whole DEI foolishness is just a bunch of government cowardice. Let's just zoom out. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the facts here. This gentleman came here in 1994 on a tourist visa. Don't tell me if you got $1, a dream, a suitcase, and the clothes on your back that you can't come here and make something of yourself. In 94, he comes here on a tourist visa. I'm just here looking around, just trying to scope out the joint and experience how beautiful America is. That's, a tourist visa. While he overstayed his his visa, he lied, changed names, forged documents, and worked illegally for decades. Did this for decades, all under the noses of local, state, and federal agencies. I must be being an American wrong, because obviously the cheat code is out there and nobody told us about it. Y'all, ICE knew of this man's status. DHS knew about this man's status. The school district knew. Everybody knew something was off, but nobody wanted to touch it because illegal immigration is the new sacred cow. I don't understand why, under the guise of compassion, we have to tolerate, which is a sin, the corruption, baptizing empathy. Do you see where tolerance leads and why it is such a sin? It's void of the truth. Romans 13 makes it clear our government's role, its job, is to punish the evil and reward the good. Why was this man rewarded for being an abject liar? Why was this man rewarded for attempting to be responsible for our babies in the school system when he was a whole fraud and a half? Our government has flipped Romans 13 and the understanding that government exists to punish evil and to reward good. They have flipped it, and now they're rewarding the lawbreakers and punishing the whistleblowers. And all the while, we, the American people, are struggling to pay rent, and an illegal with fake papers and a whole felony record was pocketing not 100,000. Not 200,000, but $300,000 or more, because you got to add the benefits, the fringe benefits in there, a year, all paid by you. Everyone in this situation is passing the buck because they know this looks bad. Okay, the district, they're blaming the vetting firm. Well, we hired this consulting firm to do the background check. So I'm like, y'all don't have an internal HR department. Before you even get to the point of where you're vetting him seriously, what happened to the background check in the first round? Why is that outsourced to a third party? Okay, this is where it comes, the bureaucracy, layers of unnecessary bureaucracy. This is one reason why the Department of Education need to be shut down. But everyone is passing the buck because the district is blaming the vetting firm. The vetting firm is blaming the district. Now, ICE is blaming, well, the system is outdated. So they're blaming outdated systems, and the whole DEI crowd is blaming racism for even questioning. How dare you question? This man pulled himself up by his bootstraps, scratched through the fence by lying and claiming he was just coming over here just to see what it had looked like, right? The DEI crowd is blaming racism because you're not supposed to question this. Why? Because he's melanated. And because of DEI, he's an immigrant, don't know his orientation status, and I don't care. But listen. You are wrong. You're racist for even questioning the fact of how did this happen. You're supposed to look away. You're supposed to act as if you don't see what you see and just say, well, this is unfortunate, but let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. No, the truth is all of those agencies, they're all complicit. You have a superintendent who lied. A system that enabled him. They elevated and celebrated this man when they knew the truth a school board that effectively hired him despite the red flags coming back that bruh don't have a PhD. That tells me they don't give a darn about your kids. It is all about the symbolism and the optics. This man does not have a PhD. And then a whole culture that is excusing him. Why? Because on paper, he looked good. Symbolism versus substance. This is why people do not trust public education anymore. This is why I refuse to allow my children to participate in it on any level. No, because it's not about education. They want indoctrination, self-congratulation, just celebrate the insignificant. Oh, I graduated high school. You supposed to? That's not a flex. That's a basic minimum standard and requirement, right? So you have indoctrination, the self-congratulatory nature of it all, and then political validation. We literally have custodians of chaos running the classrooms and individuals who all they know how to do is preach the gospel of equity while they practice deceit. It's all theater. These people do not represent moral or leadership with any sort of integrity. It's all a stage. It's the Truman Show. So let me leave you guys with this. One of my favorite books of the Bible is the book of Colossians, written by the Apostle Paul. Colossians 3:23 reminds us of this. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. So integrity and working hard, these are not optional. These are biblical commands. And when you abandon integrity for ideology, you get chaos. Chaos is what you get. This man's whole life is the sermon. He lied, he cheated, and defrauded his way to the top, and the system helped him do it. I thought I'd never live to see the day where something like this could happen. But this is not the first time something wild and crazy like this regarding somebody's immigration status. I mean, we got whole politicians in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, that's illegal. It's wild to me. Y'all, we need repentance at every level, not representation. From the classroom to the Capitol. We have got to end this DEI delusion because it's tanking this country fast. You have to end illegal immigration leniency. I get it. The country was built on the backs and by the blood, sweat, equity, and tears of immigrants, but they were invited. We were in our infant stages of the country, and it was regulated. You cannot just let anybody and a mama in them just come over here unvetted. So we need illegal immigration. It needs to be properly handled, but the leniency has got to go. Then we need to end this taxpayer-funded fraud. It's got to end. We should be rewarding character and competence and the truth. Because if God is not a respecter of persons, why are we doing it? That it is so sinful for us to do it in the name of diversity. And it boggles me that the pro-wokety woke, blackety black social justicians who claim to cling to the authority of scripture do not see how DEI is an affront to a righteous and holy God, because it is literally showing partiality based on something that they cannot control, which is their ethnic expression. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But for you guys, my audience, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Do you guys think that DEI made this whole disaster possible? Or is this just happens when, Truth just left the building and, you got all these different agencies involved and he just kind of slipped through the cracks, right? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Not only that, but I want you, if you haven't already, we have YouTube memberships and then we also have a Patreon community. I want you to join my Patreon community. There's a lot of topics that I want to talk about, but YouTube just won't let me be great. So hop on over to Patreon and join our growing community over there. But I want you guys to remember, please do not forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.